We continue our look at the devastating financial blow the COVID-19 pandemic has had on Catholic institutions and possible solutions to help those facing economic hardships. Schools in particular have been hard hit. As we reported last week, the Archdiocese of New York has announced 20 schools will be unable to reopen and 3 schools will merge. In a statement, Superintendent of Schools Michael Deegan says, "I have been a Catholic school educator for more than 40 years and could never have imagined the grave impact this pandemic has had on our schools." Joining me now by Skype is Kathleen Porter-Magee. She is Superintendent of Partnership Schools, a network of 9 urban Catholic schools in New York and Cleveland. Kathleen, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me, Tracy. I'm glad to be here.
Well, as we mentioned, the Archdiocese of New York announced last week that it's closing 20 of its schools due to the COVID-19 pandemic. How would receiving federal relief funds help these schools?
It would be an enormous help. I think Catholic schools, even more so than public charter schools or traditional public schools, are facing really an existential economic crisis thanks to COVID-19. So when the government shut down, closed all schools, including Catholic schools, many Catholic schools, many private schools nationwide lost the tuition revenue that they rely on in order to keep their doors open. Most Catholic schools are operating on a shoestring budget to begin with. And when you lose tuition revenue, it means you're losing your lifeline. And so federal aid would really be a way to keep Catholic schools, to get them through the worst of this crisis so that they can continue to serve their students well after it's over.
Kathleen, what's stopping Catholic and private schools from receiving these funds?
Honestly, I feel like it's politics more than anything else. The fight over whether public funding should go to private schools in general and Catholic schools in particular is a fight as old as Catholic schools are. The reason Catholic schools exist today is because of a fight over who should control the values that are taught in schools in general. And there has been a tension between those who believe that public schools should be non-sectarian, which initially just frankly meant non-Catholic, and people who really believe that parents should be able to choose the values that they want their children educated in. And so that fight is as old as time, and it continues today. So people are saying there should be no federal money provided to Catholic schools, even in the face of this government-mandated shutdown and even in the face of this pandemic. I do think there is a difference, or there should be a difference, in how we look at this debate today in the world of COVID and how we look at it in terms of vouchers and tax credits. But I think it's hard for people to separate the current crisis and emergency from the longstanding debate over aid to private schools.
Yeah, we know that more than half of the schools that are closing in New York are located in disadvantaged areas. What type of impact could those closures have on the students and their families?
It's going to be devastating. Catholic schools, so I have the privilege of serving Catholic schools in both Cleveland and New York. 7 of the schools that we manage and operate are in New York City, 4 are in Harlem, and 3 in the South Bronx. They serve some of the most economically disadvantaged neighborhoods in the country. And they are really beacons of hope and opportunity, and they have been for as many as 164 years. And so the fact that these are the Catholic schools we are losing, it's going to have a devastating impact on the communities. And we know this, not just from anecdote, but actually from research. There was one study that was published called Lost Classrooms, Lost Communities, which studied what happened to neighborhoods in Chicago when urban Catholic schools closed. And they found that, sure, maybe a charter school or a public school could fill the academic void, but nothing was able to fill the community void. Catholic schools are community institutions. They lift communities and families and students and neighborhoods out of poverty. And what they found in this particular study was that when a Catholic school left, crime increased, disorder increased. And so I think we're being really short-sighted if we do not find a way to provide crisis emergency relief to Catholic schools. I think the impact is going to be felt for decades to come.
Well, Kathleen, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us. We really appreciate it. Kathleen Porter-Magee, Superintendent of Partnership Schools. Thank you again.
Thank you.